Hi there, this is Dr. Anna Maria Helt here with Basmati.com and my sidekick Milo hiding directly behind me. Our herb of the week this week is prickly pear cactus. You might have heard of it by that name or by the name nopales. The botanical name is Opuntia, Opuntia, and there actually are a whole bunch of different Opuntia species of cacti, including cholla cactus, that those of you in the Southwest may be familiar with. But prickly pear is the one with those beaver tail-shaped cactus pads. Some people might be unlucky enough to have stepped on one or bumped into one or fallen mountain biking into one. And they can hurt. They can have some serious spines and really irritating hairs as well that get in your skin, and they're really hard to get out. But anyway, these cacti, prickly pear, have beautiful flowers in the spring, very showy, and they range anywhere from yellow to orange, purple, red. I'm not sure what's going on with the lighting of this camera. And then those flowers later on in the season mature into the fruits, or the prickly pears themselves, otherwise called tunas in some places. And the fruits are also anywhere from a yellow to reddish purple. And so cacti, a lot of people tend to think of cacti as growing in hot, deserty areas, but prickly pear is found all over the place. For instance, just in North America alone, it's all through Canada, it's all through the United States, it's down into Mexico, and the late herbalist Michael Moore describes prickly pear as follows. The quote is, "They survive under a ferocious variety of climates." And so this is the kind of medicine that I like, both symbolically its toughness, but also the simple practical fact that it's everywhere. And so I don't feel so bad harvesting it in the wild, whereas there are other plants I won't touch because either they have a limited range or they're very sensitive to environmental conditions. And especially now with changing environmental conditions, having something as tough and rugged as prickly pear for your medicine as well as for food, not a bad idea. And speaking of it as medicine and food, it has been used as such for many centuries here in the Americas, over in the Mediterranean region, down in Africa as well. And there is evidence of food usage of prickly pear going back at least 12,000 years, if not longer. And it is indeed a nutrient-rich food. Vitamin C, vitamin E, mixed tocopherols, vitamin K, lots of fiber, just to name some of the components. Now, the pads themselves, or the nopalitos, contain a wealth of antioxidant polyphenols, or polyphenols as some people call them. And one of the traditional uses for these pads is for inflamed tissues. And so they were used after removing the spines as drawing poultices for tissue engorged injuries to help draw out some of that fluid. And so a great drawing poultice. And again, you want to obviously make sure that you get the spines off and you're scraping the skin off of that pad. Some people actually use a blowtorch, by the way, to get the spines off the pad. It seems a little dramatic, but it sounds pretty effective. And so similarly, the pad has also been used as a poultice for inflamed or infected gums, things going on in the mouth. And the pads are also quite anti-inflammatory, and so they are used either as a juice or blended after the spines and the peel have been removed, blended into a slush, very mucilaginous, rich slush for urinary tract infections. So prickly pear is great for painful or uncomfortable urination. It's not going to do anything about infection. You would need antibiotics or an antimicrobial herb, something strong like yarrow, to help with the infection. But in terms of the painful or burning urine, prickly pear is a great way to go. Now, this anti-inflammatory property of prickly pear also shows up in our vasculature. So people that get clogged arteries, so atherosclerosis, one of the common driving factors amongst these very different people is a high level of chronic inflammation in their blood vessel walls, along with oxidative stress or free radical load. And so prickly pear is, based on research, being found to be helpful for atherosclerosis. And the thought is that this may be coming from the anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties of prickly pear. For instance, prickly pear prevents fat oxidation in the body, and oxidation of fats is what makes them sticky and likely to stick to things. And so another use there of prickly pear. Now, coming back to the urinary system, that prickly pear is also a diuretic, so it's going to help us urinate when there's an infection going on and flush away some of those wastes. Now, another traditional use for prickly pear, especially in Mexico, is for diabetes, type 2 diabetes, and really for metabolic issues in general. And what we know from research is that prickly pear does have the potential to bring down blood sugar. And I went to a really great seminar at a conference where the herbalist was talking about actually chopping up the prickly pear, or not the fruit, but the actual cactus pad, the nopales, chopping it up, sauteing it with eggs, which are also good for blood sugar, with onions and garlic, which are also good for blood sugar, for a great blood sugar stabilizing breakfast. Again, some people don't like the mucilage, the slimy quality to the cactus. I actually think it's pretty tasty, cubed and sauteed. It's something you'll just have to play with yourself. But in the least, maybe you could throw it in a smoothie with some other stuff to disguise that sliminess. But anyway, what we know from research and also from traditional usage by people like Michael Moore, the herbalist, is that nopales does not, or the cactus does not seem to be reducing blood sugar levels in normal healthy people. But for instance, in research studies with people at a high body mass index, so people that are obese who have type 2 diabetes, their blood sugar levels actually went down. So it seems like this cactus is helping people with elevated blood sugar, but not messing with the blood sugar levels of people that have normal blood sugar, healthy people that have normal blood sugar. So that's really interesting as to what exactly is going on in the body with that. Now, you can juice the leaves of the cactus, or the big pads. I guess, I don't know if that they're technically not leaves, they're stems, I suppose. Need a cactus botanist here to tell me. But anyway, you can juice it and maybe freeze that juice, or juice it and preserve the juice in some alcohol. But the study looked at people taking 4 ounces of the cactus juice daily of the pad. And so the pads are, as I said, they're tasty, cubed, and sauteed as well. So they are good food, and they're getting easier and easier to find in grocery stores kind of all over the place. It used to be that they were considered exotic, but they're pretty easy to get a hold of if you don't happen to have any growing near you. Now, the fruit itself, the actual pears, or tunas, really beautiful, very tasty. So a very sweet, tangy fruit that can be used for things like syrups, juices, and jams. And so these are, of course, all sugary preparations, maybe not what you want to do if you have diabetes. Make sure with the fruits that you actually just burn off the irritating little hairs that will be around it, because they will make your life miserable. So you can skewer that fruit with a metal skewer, or something like that, and hold it over a stove burner. And really, you don't want to cook the fruit too much, but you do want to make sure you burn off those little hairs. They're really irritating, and they get stuck in your skin or your mucous membranes if you happen to be eating that fruit. The fruit itself is very much rich in flavonoids, which are antioxidants, and antioxidant pigments of various ilk, and have been found to be useful, traditionally speaking, for issues of capillary fragility, so people who get spider veins really easily, and also useful for inflamed mucosal surfaces. And part of that benefit does seem to be through its effects on the capillary beds in those surfaces. So things like colitis, vaginitis, respiratory tract irritation, and things like that would be an area where you can use. Oh, sorry, I'm getting my wires crossed. The colitis, vaginitis, and respiratory tract stuff, and the capillary fragility is the flowers, which are very colorful and rich in antioxidant pigments and such. The fruits are also rich in antioxidant pigments, so I would also use those for chronic inflamed mucous membrane issues such as what I just mentioned. But the fruit, in addition, before I jumped onwards, has also been found in research to be useful for cholesterol regulation, and there have been benefits found in familiar hypercholesteremia, which is an inherited disorder where cholesterol levels are high. And there are other issues, though, going on with that disorder that appear to be the real problem, where the lining of the blood vessels are not behaving as they should. Anyway, great food, great medicine. Its blood sugar regulating effects might mean you might consider it as a food if you're dealing with something like polycystic ovarian syndrome, which often has links to blood sugar dysregulation. But as I said, be really diligent about removing the spines and the little hairs. And in terms of the cactus pad, you can carefully use a knife to peel off those spines and the skin. Some people do the more dramatic blowtorch method, and you certainly want to burn the irritating hairs off of the tunas, the fruit, before you use this. But look around. You might actually find this growing if you have some wild areas around you. And so this was a little bit longer today. My apologies. Until next time, be well from myself and from Milo back there napping on the couch. Take care.